How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another...
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time...
You missed a couple weeks.
Well, the middle of February presents certain challenges, and I needed to take a step back so I could, organize my sock drawer, so to speak.
So, recharging the batteries?
Well, mental health is very important.
Yeah, because you might end up reviewing Golden Age characters on a YouTube channel.
Really, dude? Without this platform, you don't have a way to express yourself either.
Oh, damn.
Anyways, I did have to take a little bit of a break to mentally reorganize the stock drawer. But this time, we're doing a character out of Chesler comic books. Now, I know I don't review Chesler comic books as much as I review a lot of the other stuff. Chesler is not as big, and their stuff can be a little... continuity-wise, it's a little weird. It's something you have to really dive into. If you've watched my channel, I've reviewed a number of Chesler stuff, and you can kind of see what I'm getting at. This time, we're not doing one of the done-in heroes like with Firebrand or Black Satan. We are doing something called the Enchanted Dagger. Now, this isn't a overall super compelling character. Actually, I like the way it started, and it let us know that our hero is mystical in nature, but it kind of veered away from that. And then the other stories, it's four parts. They all followed the same path as a racketeering protection scheme. Each one of the schemes were different, but it was the fact that all three of the other stories were protection schemes. And usually when you're doing a hero, you're doing a whole bunch of other different types of stuff. You may have like a racketeering scheme, a bribe, scandals, government officials, taking bribes under the tables, just an overall bad guy. But these were all the same type of thing. And I have to accept the fact of the dagger having powers that I don't think they really make a whole lot of sense. But since it's mystical in nature, you can't question mystical. It is what it is. So, it's not super compelling, but one of the main reasons I wanted to do this is when I go over Chesler comics and I'm looking at some of the heroes, I've come across this quite a few times because it premiered in Yankee Comics, and not only was it in Yankee, it had a couple of reprints in other comics, which I mentioned in the opener. So it's something that I finally wanted to cover so that if I come across it again, I've already done it. So this is not so much as I want to review this because I think it's a great and fascinating thing. It's just more of I want to review this so I can just say I've done it and get it over with. So let's go ahead and cover the Enchanted Dagger on this Lost Heroes of the Golden Age. The Enchanted Dagger. The Enchanted Dagger, Roy Chambers, first appeared in Yankee Comics #1 in 1941. Original publisher was Chesler, and he was created by George, I want to say Tuska, Tuska. We're going to go with that. Now, this is a interesting 4-part story. He has 4 issues, and he has a couple of reprints that are later on. He appeared in 4 issues of Yankee Comics before Yankee Comics reformatted and became more of a, it was more like a military comic book after they reformatted. He would appear in an episode of Scoop's Comics, Danger Comics, and Stranger Planets, which were all reprints. Scoop and Stranger Planets, Scoop and Danger were a reprint of his second story, and Stranger Planets were in a It was a reprint of his first story, and they were recolored. The actual how that goes is Scoop Comics was the reprint of the second story in the 40s. Stranger Planets was in reprint of his first appearance, and that came out in the 50s. And then Danger Comic, which was a reprint of his second story, came out in the 60s. So there wasn't a lot of follow-up to him after his 4 appearances. Now, in the origin story, which we will go over on his first appearance, we will talk about how he gets his Enchanted Dagger. Now, the Enchanted Dagger does have a couple of mystical properties, I guess we can put it that way. When it's near people and he's intending it to be used, it can hypnotize people, and he can also compel them to tell him the truth because they're hypnotized. It can also immobilize foes, make them so they can't move. Now, since he is the true wielder of the dagger, it does not affect him. Now, it also seemed that he couldn't be harmed by his dagger. There was an inscription on the dagger, and it says, "The true owner shall forever be immune to its great powers." In the second issue, they got the drop on him, and they had tied the dagger on a rope above him, where when the rope would break, it would pierce him. And as it came down towards him, it veered off course and cut his bonds, instead of cutting into him, which is kind of a power, I guess. So, except for the first issue where he acquires the dagger, the other stories kind of follow a theme. They are racketeering protection schemes, where in the second issue, there is this crime person who was poisoning food unless they paid the protection. He's like, hey, paid his protection fee, or, we're going to poison your food too. In the third appearance, there was another gang who was getting dead bodies for people who hadn't been buried dead for too long, and putting them in restaurants and areas. People didn't notice that they were dead bodies because they were pretty fresh, I guess. And then when the dead bodies turned up, it would make people not want to be in these hotels and restaurant establishments, which, it was pay us protection or this will happen. And the third episode, or fourth episode, final one, it was a laundry racketeering scheme where prominent members, while we're wearing their clothes would shrink and lose color at the same time. Now, I did think it was kind of interesting since, aside from first appearances, most stories are pretty contained. In the third appearance, they actually mention, hey, this is the Enchanted Dagger. He broke up that food poisoning racketeering thing. I was like, oh, that was interesting that you mentioned that. Since it wasn't a to-be-continued story, they mentioned something about a previous story that was supposed to be self-contained. So I thought that was interesting. Now, we're going to go ahead and cover the first appearance. Now, he doesn't have a standard form of dress in these stories, and how he's dressed in the first two is wildly different than the last two. In the very first one, you see your kind of outfit that you would wear about going in a jungle, which kind of looked almost like a swashbuckler's outfit, as you can see here. And that kind of costume carried over into the second appearance. But in the third or fourth appearance, he was wearing full-body jumpsuits. And the jumpsuit in the third story and the fourth story were two completely different jumpsuits. And I didn't like the jumpsuits. I kind of liked the swashbuckling. Of course, it usually, the outfit that the person is first introduced in, you like it more than what they change into, because that's what you were first introduced to in. So, I mean, maybe if it was full-body jumpsuits for all three stories, because he wouldn't be wearing a full-body jumpsuit into the jungle, right? God, I hope not. It might have been okay, but I prefer the more of the jungle-going swashbuckling outfit. Now, there's not too much I'm leaving out. What I am leaving out will actually be covered in the first appearance. So, I mean, these stories are pretty simple. They're 4 pages. They're not very long. They're on the pages of Yankee Comics. And there's not too horribly much to go into. He has no powers himself, except that he seems to be a pugilist, but as I've mentioned many times in the Golden Age, who isn't? Slightly a detective, and he has the ability to throw a dagger. I really wish that last part sounded more compelling. I mean, in my head, it sounded, wow! And then when I say it out loud, I'm like, hey, he can throw a dagger. So can most of the heroes I've covered. Anyways, I've given you the basic rundown and his appearances, and we will answer everything else when we go over his first appearance. So let's go ahead and cover the Enchanted Dagger. The Enchanted Dagger. Roger Chambers braves the jungles to bring back the Enchanted Dagger, a mystical weapon to aid him in the fight against evil. I'm beginning to think Dad's story of the Enchanted Dagger is the bunk. The bunk? I mean, you probably could have left the out of that part of the sentence. After many days of trekking through the hot African jungles, Roger Chambers grows weary of his mission. No, Bawana, we soon came to the mountain tribe who had the mystic dagger. Okay, I'll string along. We might as well camp here for the night. I gotta tell you, the phraseology in the 40s is just, it's different. Okay, so they're camping out in the woods, and he says that he hears some jungle drums. Drums of the mountain men. So they go over, and they see these guys dancing around the fire. This guy's a medicine man, and he takes an arrow. Longi tribe, they're trying to get the magic dagger. Help! Okay, fella, here we come. Chief in Mountain Pit with enchanted dagger. Go, quick, he need help. Come on, Bugo. There's a job for, is it Bugo? B-U-G-O. I guess it all depends on the U. Okay, so as they're standing at this mountain, I hope we're in time. There, where the smoke come from. Now, I'm not quite sure of the distance that they're showing from them on top of a cliff to the volcano. It looks like, from the drawing, it looks like miles of distance, but it looks like he leaps off the top of the cliff. I mean, this fire's got to be right below them, because he leaps off the cliff, and I guess he flew several miles because he's right in the middle of everything. Give us the dagger. The fierce Longzi subject the chief of the mountain men to the gruel torture. He jumps off and he lands right in the middle of everything. Torture an old man, huh? Me fix white man. Dude, you're white. You couldn't be more white. Okay, so he starts throwing hands and knocking everybody left and right. And the last of the member, he flees in terror. Because, he's just tearing everybody up. So he frees... Wait a minute. In the last panel, while he's hanging there, he looks white. And in this panel, he's brown. I'm not going to say that's a result of the comic. That's just a result of bad coloring. Okay, poor fellow looks about done for. Your face, your face, like that seen long time ago. A white man, an adventurer. My father, he sent me here on the trail of the enchanted dagger. Henry Chambers' son, quick, no time to lose. Look behind the big rock. Enchanted dagger. Just holding it gives me the creeps. You guys didn't hide that very well. It's behind a big rock. So, I'm guessing that the old timer didn't pass, and as we know in the Golden Age, when you're on death's door, you can give a whole host of exposition. It happens all the time. Many moons ago, your father saved old Chief from Savage Beast. Him leave prophecy that white man return to jungle someday and receive Dagger for why he's, you see, in the golden age, when you're about to die, you can give several panels worth of paragraphs. So he picks up the dagger and he reads it. What's this? Let me see. Great power. But what power? Well, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, we all know I'm a comic book fan. So he sails back, and I don't know how this guy from New York got a cargo manifest before the ship even arrived on shore. In New York, hangout of cargo notorious gangster. I've only got 2. Personally, I thought it was 3. What's this? Roger Chambers returns from Africa with the Enchanted Dagger. I don't know what it is, but get that dagger, Tony. Or maybe he had already returned, but they talked about the Enchanted Dagger and the guy wants it. So the guy breaks into his house and okay. This object that we got from a native tribe, which obviously belongs into a museum, we're going to go ahead and use as a weapon. So he tosses it at the bad guy, and the bad guy freezes. The knife strikes the wall. A blinding flash, and the thug freezes in his tracks. After the robbery, Cargo read about you. He sent me to get the dagger. He lives on 60 Park Square. Wow, you gave that up real quick. It's true. Hypnotism. The secret of the dagger. Under the spell of the dagger, the thug freely answers Chambers' questions. Okay, with the aid of this dagger, I'll fight Cargo's gang. In fact, all gangs until crime itself has been wiped out. With the secret powers of the Enchanted Dagger, Roger Chambers pledges to wage a never-ending fight against crime and injustice. That actually would have been a great place to leave it off. But he's still got to go confront Cargo. Now you can look, and his outfit right here looks reminiscent of a swashbuckler. So he goes and descends on Cargo's hangout, and you can see that he breaks in. Surprise! You sent your mug to get the dagger. Well, I brought it. And he starts beating up all the bad guys, knocking them left, right, center again. The Enchanted Dagger. Now I'll find out what it is. How do you like it? Oof. Get him, men. Kicks another one. Well, I guess that's the end of Cargo and his gang. He throws it against the wall. Once again, the Enchanted Dagger triumphs. Yes, Commissioner, and you'll find the bank robbers. Don't worry. They'll be here when you arrive. The Enchanted Dagger appears in Yankee Comics. In each subsequent issue, it'll always end like that. And since he does have multiple appearances, and they don't actually say the next Yankee Comics, it's not false, even when in the final appearance. Okay, I hope you liked this one. I hope you found it at least a little interesting. It's not that it wasn't completely unpropelling, it's just that I don't think they put as much thought and effort into this one as they have some other stuff. But I got more stuff in the pipeline, some really good stuff coming up, and until next time, I'll be seeing you.